Hello, today I'm gonna show why MediatR is crap and why you don't need it. So here I have Visual Studio and a .NET project. So it's a simple controller here that just returns the weather. And as you can see, I'm using MediatR and I will show why you don't need it. And I can just launch this. So it's just a simple ASP.NET API. And if we go here and then we can call the API. So I have it here. So we make a call with curl just to get request to this endpoint here, and it returns some data, some JSON data. But the problem with MediatR is that it just creates extra abstractions in your code base. So now we have it here, and yeah, it's sending some query to some handler, but yeah, we cannot really navigate to it easily. So if I control click on the query, then I get here, okay, it implements some request, and we need to like look at the references. We can see that there's some handler, and then, okay, we go to the handler, and here is no business logic, like where is it? And if we click here, get forecasts, okay, we are in some interface. And then we check here who is implementing this interface. And here we can see some service, and okay, we go here, and here we have who is actually implementing the interface and doing something. So it's like 3 layers. We have the controller and the handler, and now we are in some service. And I often see this in .NET code bases, that it seems like .NET developers really love abstractions, just creating a lot of layers. And then you need to have a lot of files open at the same time to navigate the code base and trying to understand how everything fits together. So what I would instead do would be to move this to the controller and like think a little bit like vertical slice architecture to put things together that belong together. So instead of like to start with, I wouldn't even have this interface. We can delete this. So delete here, we don't need an interface. So delete that, and now we will have some build problems. So let's look at that. So here, okay. So we use the service directly. We don't need an interface. And here in the program.cs file, we're typing the same thing twice. We can delete that. Just use the class directly. So now we have reduced it with 1 file. Then we can go back to the service. Like we don't need this query and handler, so we can just delete them. There is no business logic there. Okay, and then we have the service. And I don't really like services that much. It depends on if it's something that you reuse. But this is just used in one place, and it's quite simple. And our controller is simple, so why not just put it inside the controller? So take it here, put it here. So and this method, we don't need to have it in this file. We can just put it here, and then here. So now we don't have this MediatR stuff anymore. So go away with that. And here we await this get forecasts method instead. So instead we just call this method directly, and we don't need this await in this case. We can just do get forecasts. So now we have it all here, and yeah, in a simple instance like this, then I would just put it inside the controller here instead of putting it in a separate method. It seems a bit just useless to have it separately. So we can remove that. And this complete service, we don't need that anymore. Delete that as well. Here we can delete. Let's delete the whole folder. And also when it's like a model that you only use in one place, like why would you have it separately? Isn't it better to have them together? And then so we can put it here maybe. You can decide if you want to have it inside the controller or not, but yeah, let's put it outside. But yeah, now they are in the same file, they belong together, so they are in the same file. You can delete this, we don't need that. And here we go back. The service, we don't need to inject anymore. This with MediatR, we can delete, can clean up here. So much cleaner. We launch, and then we go over here again, and let's see if it is possible to, yes. So it's still working the same, and we deleted a lot of abstractions that we didn't need. So maybe there are use cases for MediatR, but this is like similar to what I've seen it being used for in the past. It's just like an extra layer. Instead of just calling your method directly, and there is this MediatR step in between that just makes it more difficult to navigate between those layers. So that's how I have seen it being used in the past, and yeah, it's just useless abstraction that you don't need. So, and generally in .NET, I think there are too much abstractions. People seem to really love abstractions with the DTOs and entities and repository patterns and services and controllers and yada yada yada. It's so many layers that you need to swim through to be able to understand how some piece of code works, because it's spread out everywhere. So I think it's better to think a little bit like a vertical slice architecture, and what belongs together, put them in the same file and reduce all that crap. And like interfaces, it seems so common among people that just put interfaces on everything, even though you don't need it. Just use interfaces when they make sense. So like when there is something in common that you want to extend in different ways, and then use an interface, but don't put it on everything just by habit. One argument I've heard about interfaces is that you want to make it testable, but you can mock and test classes that don't inherit from an interface. So if you use 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗟 in that library, and you can mock methods even if they are in classes without having an interface. But anyways, yeah, with this mediator, I think it's completely useless. I haven't had any need for it. Maybe it has. I have heard that it has some advanced features that maybe you need. But what I've seen, how I've seen it being used, and then yeah, it's just useless stuff that you don't need. So do yourself a service and simplify your code base by remove that. You don't need that extra layer.